Bueno, aquí donde lo ven, es ganador de Grammy, nominado a Emmy. Es productor, también presidente de Jam Inc. Es una empresa con la que hace trabajo de manager de artistas como The Doors, Ramones también. Y también maneja el legado de artistas como Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Otis Reading, Muddy Waters y Rick James. ¿Les suenan familiares? Sí, todos. Okay. Y además de eso también es consultora para el legado de artistas como Michael Jackson, Henry Mancini y Peter Tosh. En el 2009, Jampol produjo junto con Dick Wolf un documental que se llama When You're Strange, narrado por Johnny Depp, que trata sobre la vida de los Doors. Con ese trabajo ganaron un Grammy en el 2011 y además fueron nominados a un premio Emmy. También un año antes, él produjo y escribió un documental musical para Broadway titulado A Night With Janis Joplin, que actualmente se encuentra de gira. Y también de Janis Joplin hizo un documental en el 2015 que se llama Janis Little Furl Blue. Y después también, aparte de todo esto, él ha participado, tiene voz y voto dentro del Recording Academy desde 1985, es profesor adjunto de UCLA, también ha enseñado en Herb Alpert School of Music, ha dado cursos en la industria musical desde hace 16 años, en temas desde marketing, branding, negociación de negocios, valga la redundancia. Y también ha sido moderador y conferencista de manejo de artistas, estrategia digital, marketing y entretenimiento de la Darden School of Business. También en UCLA ha dado conferencias en South by Southwest, Nashville Music Conference, Musexpo y otros. Entonces hay mucho que ha hecho él. Y bueno, si tienen más dudas o quieren revisar más lo que ha hecho, pueden también buscar todo lo que ha hecho en la página wemanagelegends.com. So welcome. It's very nice being with you today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And well, as
Can
I was,
you guys hear this okay? Coming through well?
Yeah.
All right. Actually, before we start, what do you want this down, up, away, sideways? Like this. Okay, is that better? Okay. So he just did the same thing to me that I did to you. I just wanted to say a few things. Number one, I wanted to thank Mauricio and everybody from the Costa Rica Music Summit for inviting me. Yeah. He stayed on me really hard. He's a good manager. I tried to avoid him, but he found me, and I couldn't say no. Second is I wanted to extend a hello and a greeting from John Densmore. And we talked about this and how much fun he had in Costa Rica and how much he loved the people and he loved the music and he had just a really warm feeling in his heart. And lastly, I just wanted to congratulate all of you on La Selle and the 4-0 victory and for teaching us how to play soccer. It was a beautiful game for you.
You were telling me that you have been visiting Costa Rica for the last 30 years or so?
Yeah, 25 or 30 years, sure.
Okay, and what do you think about our country?
I love the Costa Rica. I mean, this is the greatest country on earth.
You told me as well that you've heard several bands, but not recently, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in here we have a lot of musicians from different kind of bands. In here we have like a big amount of genre in the scene, and well, so you may listen to questions about musicians from different kind of bands. So first of all, maybe you could tell us, how did you start as a manager?
I started because I got into college when I was very young, and I thought college was going to be this really fun party, woohoo! And for me, it wasn't. But I started working in radio, and I started working in engineering and producing, and I actually dropped out of college after about a year and a half to move to San Francisco. And I started managing punk bands, and punk was a brand new movement and a brand new scene, and punk really happened in 3 places, right? It was London, New York, and San Francisco. It kind of missed Los Angeles, and it missed some of the other countries and some of the other major cities, but we were right in the middle of the scene, which I didn't know. And everything was DIY, which is, do it yourself, and we had no idea what we were doing, but we learned. And so being in the middle of something like that, it was, it was such a renaissance in a way, and it was brand new, and it was a big fuck you to disco and to corporate rock and roll and to lame stuff that was on the radio. And I never looked back.
So when did you say, I don't like managing living people, I prefer to manage dead artists?
Yeah, well, it's funny because a lot of people call me the Tomb Raider. Actually, a lot of my clients are alive, right? I mean, John Densmore, Robbie Krieger, all of Jefferson Airplane, except for Paul Kantner, who just passed this year. They don't necessarily have to be dead, but many of them are. What I really do is I manage iconic legacies. And in fact, what I call it is we're in the business of pop culture legacy management, right? And one thing I've always told clients and I tell my students is if you think it's about the music, you've already failed. Because if you think it's about the music, then by logic, you also think that the magic to Marilyn Monroe is that she's hot and blonde. And the magic to James Dean is about his acting, right? It's an entry point, right? But great artists have an identity and a vibe and something that people understand and cling to and respond to and vibe with. And so I became this specialist in iconic artists. But for many years, my thing was artist development, was brand new artists. It was helping artists launch careers. And with the legacy thing, one of the things I always told my artists is I was like, dude, I don't manage songs. I manage artists. Right? So if you want to be an artist, then have a point of view. Like, tell me what you're about. Tell me what you... we were talking the other night, my brother and I, about Lady Gaga. And it's not about whether you like Lady Gaga or don't like Lady Gaga, but Lady Gaga as an artist has an identity. You know what she's about, and if you're into it, right, then you're interested in everything she does. Every song, acting, book, Broadway, clothing, whatever it is, right? Same thing for any artist. But today, we've reverted back to the way that American music certainly was in the early 60s, where it was all about singles. And it's all about songs. And everybody in the business is trying to make a buck right now, today. And nobody's thinking about the long term, and nobody's really thinking about artistry. I look at the fact that I get to manage my heroes, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Otis Redding. These people have a point of view, man. Right? They have a fucking point of view.
It's funny that maybe when we think about managers, we think about the tour manager or the one that tells him when he should release an album. But in your case, it's very different, right? Your work. So maybe, what's your job, like each day job? How do you say, okay, so I found a song that wasn't released, a Doors song that wasn't released. So maybe it's a good time to release it, or would you say that, okay, so maybe it's a good time to make a documentary film?
I look at it probably backwards from the way a lot of people look at it, right? Which is, for me, and I think this works for you guys, you have to decide for yourselves. For me, everything that I do is a marketing exercise first and a money exercise second. Right? I'm trying to take an artist with a point of view and connect that artist with a lot of new people. All right? One of the handcuffs that I have is that all of my partners, record labels, publishing companies, film companies, television companies, book publishers, apparel manufacturers, t-shirt manufacturers, they're all focused on my existing fan base. Right? And my existing fan base are really great for three reasons, right? Number one, they're there. Number two, they're going to support whatever it is I do. And number three, they're really great, what we call passers of the baton. They'll carry the message to new kids. But they're also a horrible marketing base for four other reasons, which is, one is they're tiny compared to the number of potential new fans there are out there. Number two, they're shrinking through natural attrition and death because they're old. Number three is they're saturated, man. They went to the concert, they got the t-shirt, they saw the movie, they got the records. right? And number 4 is they're outside the main buying demographic. They don't spend as much as young kids. But whatever it is that connected you to Jim Morrison or you to Janis Joplin or you to Otis Redding is still alive and 100% vibrant. And so my idea is to take the idea of that artist and that art and put it in front of new fans. And then one of the great parts of my job is I don't have to spin it, I don't have to edit it, I don't have to whitewash it, I don't have to tart it up and put lipstick on it. I just have to go, here it is. Like it, don't like it, and then I let Jim Morrison's magic do its thing, right? So some of the tools I use are museum exhibits, books, apparel, T-shirts and clothing. I use Broadway shows. I use regional theater shows, sometimes symphonic shows. I use documentaries. I use feature films. I use licensing for film and TV all over the world. Oh yeah, and records. Right, but records aren't even the most important thing.
So how do you feel about the digital platforms where you can, now that you're talking about records, how do you feel about the digital platforms where you can find the whole catalog for free?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because I really want to address this to you guys, because you guys are current musicians and managers, right? So here's the deal. This is the way it works. And I'm talking about the American model. I presume it works the same in Costa Rica, but if it doesn't, oh well. And it works in Europe and Japan and Australia, which is a current touring artist, your income pie should look like this. 60 to 65% of your income comes from tickets, right? 15 to 25% comes from tour merch, which means T-shirts you sell at the gig, right? 10 to 15% from publishing, 2 to 5% from ancillary sources like film and TV licensing, and 2 to 4% from records or downloads or streaming, right? And there was a great manager who said something great in my class one time. He was talking to the students, and we talked about this income pie. And he said, so really, my artists are in the tickets and T-shirts business, but they think that they're in the record business. He said, and the record company is, and this is his term, he said, they're a butt-fuck licensee of 2 to 4% of my revenue. He said, and any artist that listens to a 2 to 4% licensee and lets them guide his career is an asshole and a loser and deserves what he gets, right? Because you may own 15 to 20% of the records, and you may own the publishing, but you own 100% of the tour, you own 100% of all the tour merch, and that's where all your money's going to come from. And that manager, among other artists, managed Korn. And I said, how did your last record do it? He said, the last record was triple platinum, back when people actually bought CDs. And I said, so that was good, right? He said, that was our catering budget for food on the road for 2 weeks. Right? He said, the band makes $1.2 million per night, another $400,000 in tour merch every night, and we do 5 nights a week. So if all of that is true, and it is, then your music is just marketing for your band. You're really in the tickets and T-shirts business. So the more people that listen to your music, the more tickets and T-shirts you're going to sell, right? The record labels are in a really lousy business. They're in the business of manufacturing these shiny round silver things to sell to stores that don't exist for people that don't have to pay for them. That's their business. They're trying to get into your business, right? You are in the tickets and T-shirts business, and as such, the more music you can give away for free, they're all commercials for your tickets. So it's awesome. For me, it sucks because we don't tour, because we're still dead.
So do you feel that you have like a big space to work without getting in contact with the record companies? I mean, they are not like a problem for you. You have a lot that you can do without negotiating with them.
Yeah, I mean, the record companies, look, the record companies can be really great partners and they can be really lousy partners. It all comes down to leverage and how much power you have. You know, in our case, in our case, really, it's not that I'm that bitchin' or I'm that smart or I'm that great. It's the fucking Doors. You know, it's Janis Joplin. And so again, it's not me being that great. It's just great artists. But each of the different companies, if you think about it, like record companies know nothing about the clothing business. Clothing business knows nothing about Broadway. Broadway knows nothing about the museum business. Museums know nothing about books. Book business knows nothing about publishing. Publishers know nothing about, and it just goes on and on. So they're all living in their own little tiny worlds. You, as a manager or as an artist, you are in charge of your brand. You are in charge of your legacy. And so it's up to you as a manager to use all of these companies as tools to create a vision to move forward. So we create all the ideas. We came up with the idea for the Broadway show. I hired a writer. It happened on my couch in my office. You know, we came up with the idea for a Ramones museum exhibit. We went out and made it happen with the 2 museums. We came up with the idea for a Doors 50th anniversary, which you're going to see. It's going to be amazing. And then we use our partners to help us build it and to help us make it happen. So no, we guide it as quarterbacks.
We are lucky then that we don't have record companies in here, or they're not like a real business in here. But let me ask them a question.
Thank God, really, thank God you are not in the record business. The record business sucks, right? The artist business is awesome.
De aquí, ¿quiénes de los músicos, quiénes han sacado un disco con una disquera así con nombre? See, any of them have released an album with a record company.
Right.
Y de los músicos, ¿cuántos tienen mercaderías y camisas, discos, cuántos? Okay, they are the ones that have merchandise. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Entonces también es una buena noticia. So now in the 2016 we have a lot of dead artists, right? Like David Bowie and Leonard Cohen and Leon Russell recently. So, like in these cases, when a big artist dies, how does it work for you? I mean, like, do you see, oh, there's a potential client, or so how is the contact with, I don't know if it's the record company or with the family, or that you go and knock their door?
We've been lucky enough. We haven't had to pursue an artist for 13 years. They've all come to us.
You don't have to go to their funerals then?
Yeah, no.
No, okay.
But there is one that I want, which is David Bowie. I will go after David Bowie. But, believe me, I think I know as much about David Bowie as any living human person on the planet. David Bowie changed my life. It all happened actually with a record that Glenn, my brother, gave me when I was about 12 years old. Do you remember that, in Berkeley? And I went to see Bowie, and my life was absolutely transformed. But he just died in January. And I know that he's got good business management. I know that he's got good lawyers. I know that his family is very down to earth. His son, Duncan, is overlooking things. So I don't think he's in any danger. But I didn't want to be a whore. I didn't want to go after him and just call them and go, okay, he's dead. So I've been kind of waiting. But I think maybe January, I'll reach out.
So how does the work changes? I mean, when he's dead, you go there and you say like, oh, so maybe we should wait like 5 years and release a documentary film, or we should maybe re-release his, I don't know, a part of his catalog, or I mean, which are the tools that you use to start a relationship with an artist?
Well, I'll tell you how we do it and how I look at it, which is the way that I explain it to clients is. And again, I don't know how much of this works for living artists. You guys have to decide, but this is what I do for my clients. I look at the career and the legacy like this big brick fireplace, right? And when I come on board, it's cold and dark and empty and nothing's going on. And on the mantelpiece of the fireplace, there are like 6 or 7 matches. And matches are things like a documentary, a feature film, a book, a clothing line, right? And matches are very rare, and they're very expensive, and they're very hard to come by, and you can only replace them every 25 to 30 years. And what I've seen happen so many times is an estate will be, usually an artist dies, he will leave it to his family, and so the family inherits this thing, and they're filled with fear because they don't want to screw it up. But they've also seen every Hollywood movie about the crooked manager and the crooked lawyer and the guy in the back room, and they've heard all the stories about guys like Billy Joel losing all their life savings with crooked managers, and so they're very scared. And fear can paralyze people, right? And one of the problems is, I always say that having a legacy is kind of like walking up a down escalator. And if you're standing still, you're not really standing still, you're moving backward. So you can't stand still. And so these families have this thing, pardon me, and they don't deserve it, and they didn't create it, and they know they can never recreate it, and they know if they screw it up, they have really screwed up. And they're just not sure what to do. And then somebody comes along and goes, let's do a movie. And they go, right, movie, awesome. And they take the match down and they strike it and they stick it in the fireplace, and then the match glows and everybody can see in the fireplace, and they go, ooh, look, light, cool, awesome. And then in 90 seconds, the match goes out, and you're left with one dark, cold, empty brick fireplace and one burnt match. And do that 6 times, end of legacy, right? So before I strike a match, I want to make sure that I put lots of newspaper in there and wood and twigs and kindling, so that when I strike a match, I'm going to build a fire. And the fire I can keep burning for generations. So we do everything very carefully, and it's different for every artist, right? And I'll tell you an example. We were meeting with Eazy-E's widow, Tomika. Eazy was the lead singer of NWA, and her business manager and her lawyer asked if I would manage Eazy-E's estate. And I said, yes, absolutely. I love NWA. And we met several times, and I knew that the film was coming. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. And I knew she was going to be a producer on the film. And I said to her, look, you and Dre and Cube are going to produce this film. And the film's going to go. It's going to get the budget, it's going to get made, and it's probably going to be great. I mean, maybe it'll suck, but let's assume it's going to be great. If it's great, right, then that is the best rocket engine you're going to have for the career of Eazy, right? So what has to happen in these 3 years, you have to get everything set up so that you have a book, and you have a documentary, and you have a this, and you have a that. And then once the movie comes and everybody's talking about your husband, then we can start putting this stuff out and we can build this fire. And she didn't understand that, and she thought, no, she disagreed with me. Fine. And so and the movie came out, and it was huge, and everybody was talking about Eazy-E, and now he's gone. And it's over. One burnt match. Right? And she'll never have a chance to make a feature film about NWA again for the next 25 to 30 years. And like right now, we're working on a mixing board. We're working on a new feature for The Doors. Right? Because the Oliver Stone movie came out in 1990, so everybody on planet Earth that's 26 years old or younger was not alive when that movie came out. I think we're ready for another one. Oh, it was you.
Murió. It's dead, like your artist.
Yeah. Want to use this? Here.
Okay, so maybe tell me about what do you think about the Oliver Stone film? Because you released a documentary not that much time later, and well, it was like a film that everybody said, well, not everybody, but there was a part of the audience that thought that it was not honoring the band as it should.
Okay. Did you get it fixed?
Okay.
All right, is this good? Everybody has different feelings about the Oliver Stone film. I'll tell you, my feelings are, I liked it. I also understand, though, that when you do a feature film, what we call a narrative feature, right, it's, you have, everybody has a different goal, right? And this is part of what I was talking about earlier, when as a manager, you have to guide the legacy of the band according to what the band needs and wants. So record companies want to sell more records. They don't care if you're going to be around for 20 years or 10 years. They just want to make their profit in this quarter, right? Publishers just want to make money from putting your songs in films and TV shows. They might suck. It might be a horrible commercial. It might go against everything you stand for, but that doesn't matter to the publishing company because they make dollars, right? And even concert promoters, right? I used to talk to bands when we were touring, and I said, look, a concert promoter, you have to understand what business everybody's in, right? Radio is in the business of selling blank airtime for commercials. That's their business. A concert promoter's business is renting a venue for $10 per seat and selling the seats for $20 per seat, right? The fact that you have a really great chorus or listen to the guitar solo, who gives a fuck, right? It could be a bullfight, it could be a monster truck rally, it could be a dog show, or it could be your stupid band. Whoever can put more asses in more seats wins, not great guitar solos. They don't even have guitar solos at dog shows. And in the case of movies and movie producers and studios, they're in the business of spending $20 million for a movie and making $60 million. So they want to sell as many tickets as possible. Being authentic, being true to the story, telling it in a way that helps the legacy of the band, that's not their job. Right? And it took me 9 years to get over my resentment and anger about this, until one day I realized, you know what? It's not their job. It's my fucking job. It's my job. Their job is to make a movie for $20 million that makes 60. My job is to make sure they make the right movie that helps my artists' legacies, right? And so I understand that and I respect it. So in the case of the Oliver Stone movie, they made that movie to make money, right? I think the movie was entertaining. I think I love the music. My problem is they only showed one side of Jim. Jim was that guy, but he was also a very generous guy and a heartwarming guy and a lovely, sweet, caring guy and a tender guy. And Ray Manzarek used to tell me all the time, he goes, Jim doesn't always walk like this. Right? So you really only saw one side of Jim, and it was Hollywoodized. Right? And there are good narrative features made, and there are crappy narrative features made. As a manager and artist, it's up to you to make sure that you can guide that process as best you can. Right? So when we make the film coming up in the next 2 or 3 years, we will try and guide that process the best we can. But I'll give you an interesting example. We're going through this right now with Otis Redding. There's a director in Hollywood, one of the hottest young directors right now. Everybody is after this guy. He's got Academy Awards chasing him. He's got all kinds of Emmy Awards chasing him. He did a TV series, one of the greatest ever. He did a movie, one of the greatest ever. His actor should have been nominated for an Academy Award, but he wasn't because he was black and it was Oscar So White year. But this guy is like the darling of Hollywood, and he wants to make an Otis Redding feature. Badly. And everybody's calling me going, oh my God, this guy wants to direct your feature. This is unbelievable. I go, yeah, he's really great. And we've met a few times, and we talked about authenticity and legacy, and I said, on my artist films, I'm always a producer. And my artists want it that way, because that way I make sure my artist has a voice at the table. Right? So that when you guys are in your little back rooms of the studio and you decide that whatever, I can make sure that it's authentic and real and follows the truth. And he said, well, I don't allow any outside producers on my films. He said, but we'll give you meaningful consultation. That's the word they use, meaningful consultation, which is, I think, Latin for fuck you. And so after several meetings, we've been going back and forth, and I said, blank, look, I can't do it. I understand you're the hottest guy. I understand you love Otis Redding, and I think you're going to make a great movie. But I don't know. Right? And the problem is the Otis Redding legacy is $1 billion legacy. And that legacy is going to be important 50 years after you're fucking dead. Right? So who gives a shit about one little movie? Your movie can take down my legacy. Right? And so unless we can get to the point where we're both on the same page and we have a voice at the table, because what it really is you are making our movie. We're not allowing you to make your movie. This isn't your legacy. Otis died in a plane crash at age 26. He built this legacy. It belongs to him. Right? I'm nicer about it. This is what I'm thinking inside. And I don't think we're going to make the movie. I think we're going to let it go. So, and that's my job. That's my job, is to let it go if I think there's danger.
Okay. Great. I was just trying. Okay, so of all of the experiments that you've done with your artists, like the movies and the documentaries and the musical in Broadway, which one would you think that it's the most successful, or the one that your favorite one?
The next one.
The Doors film?
No, the next one we're going to do. Yeah, maybe. We have a few things up our sleeve. We're working on a show right now which is going to be about the Doors. We're not going to do a Broadway show because that's not the Doors. The Doors are dark and edgy and dangerous and psychedelic. And so we're working with this amazing guy on a show that's going to take place probably in a huge tent, a tent that will hold about 2,000 people. And it's going to be a combination of special effects and movement and maybe some special dance or acting. No dialogue. There's going to be no dialogue in this thing. You're just going to come in there and we're going to blow your fucking mind. And it's, as one guy said, it's like an acid trip, but you don't come down. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about all the projects. I wouldn't put my name on them or allow my artists to go into them unless I thought they were going to be really cool for the artists. Some have made money. Some have made more money than others. I don't think anything's lost money. But I think I stand proudly behind everything we've done. I think the albums are great. I think that the films are great. I think that the things that we do as far as museums and even the apparel, I go over every single design and every piece of cloth for every T-shirt for every one of my artists all over the world. And believe me, I only about 15% of what comes in gets to go out. Wow. So I respect it all.
So what do you think about the things that you've seen in here? All the apparel in here?
Like what?
The clothes and the...
And the club?
Yeah.
I'm actually really impressed. You know, because usually when I'm here, I'm either up in Heredia at Finca Rosa Blanca, or I'm out at Quepos or Santa Teresa, and I don't really get into the city much, right? But I came in tonight and I was like, wow, this is really cool.
And well, in here and in all over of Hard Rock Cafe, you have a lot of stuff of the artists and living artists. So how do you decide which of those stuff you can just lend to the Hard Rock?
Oh, I sell nothing. I sell nothing. They don't get it from me. No, in fact, we're always trying to buy stuff back. Because we're building all these museum exhibits. We have a museum exhibit coming on Jim Morrison and one on the Doors that are going to go all over the world. And Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane and Monterey Pop, 50th anniversary next year. And Muddy Waters and the Blues. I want to do one on Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, and Willie Dixon. So no, they don't get it from me.
So do you do like a research before saying, okay, so now it's the good time to do like a Doors show? Or I mean, as you said that, well, you know that the audience is dying, the legendary artist's audience is dying.
No, I said the old audience is dying.
Okay, so you know that you have to get like younger audience. But when do you know that it's like the right time to do that?
The right time is all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time, constantly. Right? It's about, once again, my artists stand for something. They have opinions, they have a vibe, you know what they're about, right? And so it's taking that thing they stand for and connecting it with an 11-year-old or a 14-year-old, right? And letting the 14-year-old decide for himself, right? And just letting the magic work. Mm-hmm. I don't have to get in the middle of it. All I have to do is help them connect with it in a way that's authentic and credible. Two very important words. It's
very interesting that several of the artists that you manage, they have like more besides the music. They have like interesting stories, and that's very helpful, right?
Yeah. So go create some interesting stories. Yeah.
So maybe when, for example, you were like a consultant for Michael Jackson's legacy, right?
Yes.
How does it work in that case? All of the bad news about him and all of the bad stories about him that they're like always every year you listen for new people like saying that they were kids and they slept with him. So how does that work for the legacy?
I think Michael had a lot of controversy surrounding him during his lifetime, and it certainly continued afterward. My own personal belief is that Michael was, to me, and I just speak for me, not the estate, I think Michael was asexual. I don't think sex was a thing in Michael's life. I think Michael was in a case of suspended animation as a child. He never had a childhood, and his father was really mean, right? And he was working professionally from the time he was 5, and he loved fantasy, and he loved Alice in Wonderland and Sleeping Beauty and Disney. And so when he got successful enough and rich enough, he created that environment. I mean, when you were 10, if you were 10 years old and you had $1 billion, wouldn't you build Neverland? I would. And I think that's what he did. And I think being an innocent, shy human, I think he got taken advantage of a lot. And I think people came after him for money, and he was a very pure soul, right? And so that controversy always surrounds him. But Michael is the biggest artist in the history of pop music. Michael, I mean, it's already been reported publicly. Michael's income for this year is going to exceed $935 million. Right? That's 7 years after he died. And people want to be attached to that. And so if somebody thinks they can get money, or they can announce, oh, this happened, or oh, I did this, or we see all these guys, I have Michael Jackson paintings, and I have this thing. You wouldn't believe the fake Jim Morrison autographs I see all the time. And all this stuff, and people trying to make a buck. So he's surrounded by controversy, but the art and the music lives, right? And that's part of the idea, is to take that great art and music and connect it with future generations, and then they get interested, and then they learn about the man.
And does it happen that that you can use the controversy in favor of the artist's legacy?
Listen, generally speaking, not about Michael specifically, but in general, it's all about authenticity and credibility, right? Like, one of the first discussions I ever had with the Joplin family, with Janis's brother and sister, is I said, you know, she slept with women and she shot heroin, right? You know that. And we got to talk about it. And we're going to talk about it. And if you watched the documentary that I produced on The Doors, When You're Strange, we talked about Jim Morrison's alcoholism. We didn't pull any punches. We just told you what happened. This is the truth. You can make up your own mind. You can think he's an asshole, or he's awesome, or I love the Doors, or I hate them. That's up to you. But here's the truth. And so that's really what we do. The artists are the ones that made the magic. All my job is to not fuck their stuff up and to put it in front of you in a way that they intended.
It's very. I found in your webpage you have a phrase that it called my attention. When you say that we help iconic artists' legacies make the transition to the digital age with integrity.
Right.
So integrity is like a big part of what you're doing with them.
It's everything.
Why do you think that it's important to talk about integrity when you talk about the digital age?
Well, the digital age, you know, when we speak and we use the phrase the digital age, what we really mean is modern times. A lot of these artists came of age in a time in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and business was different, marketing was different, record sales were different, radio was different, fans were different. And so they're stuck in this time. And, you know, if you're an artist that did something a certain way in the 70s, and the artist passes, and then the family gets this legacy, and now here we are in 2016, you can't do it like you did in 1972. So we have to help you transition into the modern age. So really, digital is the same word as modern. But integrity is everything, right? Because one of the things with my staff, with my managers, you know, I like to rattle their cage every once in a while and just make sure to keep them on their toes. And every few weeks, I'll stick my head in one of my manager's offices and I'll say, look, it's 10:45 in the morning. I'll bet you, if you had espresso this morning, I'll bet you by 5 p.m. today, you could completely destroy what took Jim Morrison 27 years and death to build. So have a really careful day. And it's a heavy weight. I could fuck it all up.
Have you seen any artist's legacy being fucked up by any?
Oh yeah.
Like whom?
Nope.
No
nope.
comments. Okay.
I've seen more be fucked up than not be fucked up.
Any clue?
What's that?
Any clue, maybe?
No.
¿Qué les parece si, bueno, no sé si tienen preguntas que quieran alguien, ok.
Yeah.
Know that there's a lot of musicians, also artists, as you said. What would be
Wait a minute. What's the difference between a musician and an artist?
musician just interpret anything an artist believes goes beyond.
Okay.
So what would be a good advice for these musicians to transcend or to get that legacy part? You know, how to become a legend and work on your legendary powers or whatever.
Right.
What would be your advice for those who seek the greatness?
Okay, it's a good question. I'll repeat a little bit of what I said, but the first thing, my opinion, artists and musicians are really crappy actors. You guys can't act for shit. Okay, so don't pretend. Be who you are, right? I've watched artists sit there and they'll look at the charts and they'll listen to all the latest songs and they'll go, oh, look at this, they're doing this turnaround on the bridge. We should do a turnaround on the bridge. It's like, fuck that. Like, what's in your heart, right? And if you really focus on your craft and learn to play your instrument unbelievably well, and I used to tell living artists, please hurry up and write 100 shitty songs. Just write 100 really crappy ones so we can get to the good ones, right? And just keep writing. And your girlfriends will lie to you, your family will lie to you, your friends will lie to you. The only person that's going to tell you the truth is your audience. They will tell you the truth, right? And Keith Richards has a famous quote, or at least famous to me. He said, one live performance is worth 3 weeks of rehearsal, right? And I've watched musicians, what happens there, look, there's a lot of stuff that's out of our control. There's a lot of stuff we can't control, and a lot of it, you could do everything right. You know, you could rehearse your ass off, you could write great songs, you can book tours, you can get this, you can get that lucky break, but at the end, you also got to have magic, right? And you can't create the magic. The magic either comes or it doesn't. And as an artist, art by definition is communication. You're communicating something to somebody else, right? So as a musician or an artist, presumably you're experiencing life, you experience feelings and emotions, and you are writing songs that document your take on things. And hopefully somebody will resonate with your take on things. And if you get a lot of somebodies that resonate with how you think and feel and sing and write, then you have this great career. But it doesn't, even if a lot of people don't find it, it doesn't mean that your art isn't valid, right? Your art is valid. When you create it, it's art because, by definition, because you're an artist. It doesn't always mean you get to pay the electric bill with it, right? So the best advice is be true to yourself, make art that you feel from your heart, practice your ass off, work your ass off. And I've watched so many artists, they'll say in the studio, and they'll mix and they'll remix, and then they'll remix again, and they'll overdub, and they'll remix, and nobody gives a fuck. Just get out and play live. Right? That is your natural habitat, is on a stage with people. There's this nonverbal communication back and forth and a feeling of angst and eroticism and energy. That's rock and roll. Go do that. Right? And if enough people resonate with that, then you'll have this great career. But I like to see an artist that has a point of view. I can go, oh, this is what they're about. Right? So what are you about? What do you stand for? What kind of music do you make? What's your feeling about fucking Trump? What's your feeling about environment? What's your feeling about love? What's your feeling about breaking up? I don't know. I'm a shitty songwriter. Don't ask me. Does that make any sense?
I see that you manage 2 artists from the 27 Club, Janis and Jim. Have you ever been interested in, I don't know, have a kind of management with Jimi Hendrix or Kurt Cobain or Amy Winehouse that they actually put them like all this time like in the same place and you see them in the same pictures? Like, have you ever had contact or something?
Well, I manage the Kurt Cobain estate. Okay. I just parted company with them a couple months ago.
Okay.
And I'm very friendly with the Jimi Hendrix estate.
Okay.
I help them, they help me. We talk all the time. But you know, the 27 Club, I don't know.
You don't give a fuck.
I'm about the music and the art, really, right? And they're all quite different artists.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they all died at 27. Is that interesting? Yeah, okay, it's interesting. Next. Otis died at 26. I get it, but I'm not into it. But I understand. And it's okay.
For living artists, how big of a role do you think the manager should have in guiding their direction, both artistically and economically?
Well, you've got an inherent problem when you're new, right? Because when you're new, no really seasoned, experienced manager is going to be that interested and is not going to have the time, right? And there's nothing more important to me than loyalty. Nothing, right? And having been a manager of young artists and unknown artists, I've helped unknown artists really get to a point where they were successful and been fired, right? So usually for a young manager, one of two things will happen. One is you will bust your ass and you will spend every day and night and every penny you have helping this band succeed, and they will go nowhere, and you will end up broke managing an unsuccessful band when they break up. Or you'll bust your ass night and day, spend every penny you have, focus on this band, and they will become successful, and right when they're getting really successful, they will fire you. And then it's, bro, we love you. We can't believe what you did for us. It's been amazing, but now we need really professional help. Now, if we don't do it right, we're going to lose our whole careers. Right? So as a new manager, that you really can't win, right? Except to do one thing, which is loyalty to me is everything. And if with a new band, you're never going to find a guy who's going to bust his ass and believe in you and work for you like a new manager who identifies with you, who's your friend. And what happens is he'll work side by side. He understands who you are better than anybody. He can tell you the truth. He can be honest with you. And then as you start to get successful, the best thing that young manager can do is then go join a bigger management firm, right? And then you can continue to be the day-to-day manager, and you can use the influence and the power and the reach of the bigger management company. Yeah, and so that's kind of a win-win-win for everybody.
I was watching a documentary about, it's called Supermensch. It's about...
Shep.
Yeah, and
I love Shep.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see how much of Alice Cooper's work was actually coming from him, and him being the one who was guiding this person in a direction.
Wasn't that surprising to me? I get it.
So would you say that it's good to listen to your manager in terms of artistic decisions?
No. I do not think it's a good thing to listen to your manager for artistic decisions. I think it's a really good thing to listen to your manager for marketing and professional decisions. I think tell your manager to fuck off when he talks to you about artistic decisions. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
And by the way, if you make that great of an artistic decision, go pick up a guitar and get a manager. No, I mean, they're the artist. I can give them my opinion, but I'll tell you what I tell artists. I go, look, I'm going to come up with 20 genius creative ideas for you, and 3 of them are fatal. They're going to kill your career. I just don't know which 3. So I think they're all bitchin'. I think they're all awesome, but 3 of them are going to kill your career. So you better be the ones that decide. Right? Yeah.
¿Hay alguna pregunta más? ¿Alguien tiene otra pregunta? Ok. Una. Vamos con la última pregunta, entonces.
Per se, now the bands, we really need matches. They're very expensive. You don't get them very easy. But what would the matches be on a regular basis band would be like? It would be
I'll tell you.
cool hunting, like get into the trendy things, go into, I don't know, maybe you can give us light for that.
I'll give you my opinion, but again, it's just one jerk's opinion. Right? The only thing you care about is playing live. right? And you care about playing to 30 people. Can you get 30 people? Good. Come back there in a month and get 40 people. Can you get 40? Good. Come back in a month and get 80. Then 150. Then 200. When you can go to 30 major cities in the world and get 1,000 people in a club, then you have all the power. Then I'll give you $1 million. Easy. Maybe $2 million. Right? So all you have to do is build a fan base through playing live. Record your shows, go in the studio, give away your music for free, sell a CD with 20 songs for $1, put it up streaming for free, put it on SoundCloud, let everybody become familiar. Just play. That's all you have to worry about, right? And if you start to develop a fan base, we will find you. We will find you. Trust me, we will find you. Right? So that's the only magic you need.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for tonight's conversation. It's been an honor talking with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening to me.